Alright, so before I begin this video, can I just say that whoever at Sega thought it'd be a great idea to release two major JRPGs within a week of each other is a fucking moron. This and Persona 3 Reload are at least 70 hours long, even more if you do the side content. You can't play these types of games back to back. People have lives. I mean, I don't, but others do. Supposedly. Plus, it doesn't really make much sense from a financial standpoint. I mean, wouldn't both of these games just eat each other's sales? Well, I guess the demographics might be different enough, but still. Anyways, Like a Dragon 8, Infinite Wealth, or Yakuza 8, if you're still of that mindset, like me, is one of my most anticipated games of this year. And currently, it is my game of the year. For now. For those who've been chomping at the bit wanting a Persona game in America, well, here it is. Although instead of high schoolers, your party consists of a bunch of middle-aged people. And since I've done nothing but play this game since it released, and have just finished it, and considering that I have about 200 gigabytes of footage, I thought I might as well review it. The story. 4 years have passed since the Great Dissolution, and Ichiban and his friends have gotten their lives back on track. But soon they find themselves back to square one, when Ichiban's history as a Yakuza is revealed by a dirty VTuber. Ah, shit. Anyways, hearing that former Yakuza have been gathering under the Seiryu clan, Ichiban and his friends, Nanba and Adachi, go to investigate. Things happen and it is revealed that Sarashiro, Ichiban's former captain, and the man who killed the patriarch in the last game, actually didn't kill him, and is working with the Seiryu clan to rehabilitate the struggling Yakuza. Sarashiro asks Ichiban a favor, revealing to the latter that his mother is still alive in Hawaii. This kickstarts Ichiban's journey to find his estranged mother, flying to Hawaii where he soon finds himself in the middle of a major plot, like always. That's the premise for the main story. In Infinite Wealth, there is a major side story that focuses on Kiryu, who reveals that he has cancer and has very little time left to live. Kiryu's story is the bucket list, where he's given the chance to reconcile with the past, leaving no loose ends before he kicks said proverbial bucket, or that's what it should have been. But overall, the story had a strong start, the momentum keeps going during the middle, but by the end, yeah. On one hand, there are aspects that I like about the ending, but on the other, I can see why some people would be disappointed, especially longtime fans. I won't go too in-depth with the gameplay, but if you want a quick summary, it's just Yakuza 7, but with quality of life improvements and some new stuff to do. In combat, you can finally move, which makes it a bit more involved as it allows you to reposition your attacks for maximum efficiency, like getting multiple enemies with skills, knocking enemies into each other, or into your party to chain attacks. Though the enemy will also still be moving, which means that you'll either have to wait for them to move in the right spot, or you can just push them into standing where you want them to. When attacking, you now regain a small amount of MP, and when performing combo attacks, both members regain MP. You can now perform tag moves, which now use the hype meter at the bottom by pressing the right trigger, which allows Ichiban or Kiryu, depending on who's leader, to perform attacks with selected party members. One complaint I do have with this is that even though you position the selected character to attack a group of enemies, if there isn't enough space, you'll be moved to a place that will only hit that enemy. Ichiban and Kiryu also have their own moves using the hype meter. Ichiban can perform an ultimate tag move, where all other members with full hype will perform an attack along with him, damaging all enemies. While Kiryu's hype meter, after a certain sub-story, allows him to perform Dragon's Resurgence by holding the trigger, where he breaks out of the RPG system to go back to his brawler roots. I did notice that they removed the option to quick select skills, which may be an inconvenience to some. And if you happen to fight wiki enemies with blue icons, you can now auto complete fights with a smackdown by pressing the left trigger, at the cost of getting a little less experience. Since Ichiban has been fired from Hello Work, and they're not very welcoming considering his past, he now gets his jobs from Aloe Happy, a travel agency where he goes on vacation tours to gain inspiration. Some jobs return from 7, such as Breaker, Chef, Host, Idol, and Night Queen, and there are new jobs, which pretty much act as replacements for the older ones, or alternatives of the ones that are returning. Housekeeper, which replaces Matriarch, Kunoichi and Tennis Ace, replacing Dealer, while the former also has some Night Queen similarities. Geodancer, this game's combination of hostess and idol. Linebacker, which combines the elements of foreman and enforcer. Samurai, taking over for bodyguard. Aquanaut, a sort of mix between musician, fortune teller, and host. Action Star, which has some similarities to Breaker. Pyro Dancer, which kind of does the same job as chef and musician. And finally, Desperado, which is most probably this game's version of Devil Rocker. Some of these are kind of a stretch, I know, considering that it has been a while since I played 7, but these are the observations I have made. In addition to those, there are jobs exclusive to Ichiban and Kiryu. In addition to Freelancer and Hero, Ichiban has Sujimansa, where you can summon Sujimons to battle with him. I never really used it much, but from what I've experienced and heard from others, is that it's a pretty underwhelming class that takes a lot of time and effort to make useful. It pays off in the end, but still other classes can do what this one can with a lot less effort. With Kiryu, his job is the Dragon of Dojima, as expected, which is his moveset from Zero and Kiwami 1 transcribed into an RPG. Brawler is the all-rounder, with the ability to perform heat actions and counters with perfect guards. Rush gives him a wider movement range and can attack twice. Finally, Beast allows him to pick up heavy objects and has a grab that, in proximity, allows him to perform a wide range attack, damaging any opponents nearby. A major change with skills is that there is now an inheritance system, where any skills from one job can be used by another. In 7, you just gain access to a skill that will be permanently in your skill list, but in 8, you can now choose what skills you want. This allows your party to become a lot more versatile and cover all bases. Also, just to let people know, there is currently a bug where permanent job stats aren't shared between jobs, which isn't that big of a deal unless you're doing the post-game stuff or playing on harder difficulties. Luckily, if you're playing on PC, there is a mod that fixes that. Now for the minigames. In addition to those in Yakuza 7, there are a few new things Ichiban can try in Hawaii. First is Crazy Delivery, which is just Crazy Taxi but as an Uber Eats deliverer. Second is Seku Snap, Pokemon Snap, but instead of taking pictures of cute and awesome creatures, you take pictures of perverts in butterfly masks and mankinis. Finally, we have Mismatch, a Tinder sim which is just a mix of Yakuza 0's Telephone Club and Yakuza 6's Cam Girl minigame, where Ichiban goes on dates for Wicked Heart Slash. Spoiler alert, most of them are catfishers, but there are some who aren't. For major side stories that you'll be spending a lot of time doing, if you want to or not, are the following: Dondoka Island, an Animal Crossing-like mode which will be your main source of income during the early to mid game. It's pretty simple. Gather resources to build structures for guests who will vacation at your resort. During this time, you'll also have to fight off against pirates who want to use the island as a dumping spot for trash. It has a nice eco-friendly message which is sponsored by 2 major Japanese children's mascots, Gachapin and Luku, though ironically that message is kind of ruined when you're building these massive structures for your guests that will most likely increase the island's greenhouse emissions. But they are made from recycled materials, so there's that I guess. Second is the Sujimon League, which is literally just Pokemon but with weird old men battling. You go around training your Sujimons, fighting against trainers and collecting badges from Sujimon Masters, all while collecting new Sujimons or using the gacha. In addition to battling, you can use your Sujimons to train and collect resources at the Dondoka farm, which will increase not only their experience but also their friendship with Ichiban. The final major side story is Kiryu's bucket list. This is pretty much just reference after reference of every Yakuza game, as Kiryu will reminisce about certain moments and people at certain spots. As someone who has played almost every Yakuza game, with the exception of Kenzan, Dead Souls and the Black Panther games, I quite like these callbacks. It's nice to see them reference characters who've been gone for a while, like Tanimura and Shinoda, even if it's just for a few lines. Speaking of characters who've been gone forever, within the bucket list are lifelings, sub-stories where Date helps Kiryu try to get closure with the people he's met in the past. Again, nice to see some of these people brought back, but I have some mixed opinions about these. In the map, you can now fast travel to different parts of the city by highlighting the taxi icon and moving them. There's also the tram in Hawaii, which is free, but not the fastest when you could just run, take a taxi, or Segway to your destination. Speaking of segways, Street Surfers, a fun new way to travel Hawaii and Japan. Just press the down button and ride. If you place a marker on your map, you can auto ride to your destination with the right trigger. Now the Street Surfer does run on batteries, and you'll have to charge them when running on low, but you can get upgrades to improve their battery life. Since Hawaii and Japan have different currencies, it will automatically convert to their respective currency when changing locations. 100 yen equals $1 and vice versa, although that hasn't been like that for quite a while now. And as you can also see, things are expensive, at least in the early game. In the late game, you'll be swimming in money. Like in the last game, Ichiban and Kiryu can bond with members of their respective party. In this game, there is a Bond Bigo card, which provides some details about the characters, and once you complete the card, you will have a POV outing with them, which ends with a picture with either Kiryu or Ichiban with a party member. To sum it all up, this game is just an all-round blast to play. The quality of life improvements are a nice touch, but my god, this game is long. The game still uses the Dragon engine, which looks as beautiful as usual. The footage here doesn't really do it much justice because I had to lower the resolution so the file sizes won't blow my hard drive, but still. Ijincho and Kamurocho still look the same as usual, but Hawaii? Man, this place looks great. I've never been to Hawaii and probably won't for a long time, but this game does a pretty good job in making me want to visit, although I'm not a big fan of beaches, hot weather, or squalls. Actually, now that I think about it, Australia already has all those things. But on a technical standpoint, you might want to turn down the settings, or this game has some memory leak issue, because in certain areas, namely the beach, I noticed that my game was getting a little choppy. In terms of audio, I've pretty much only played with the Japanese voices, but I've taken a quick listen to the English and Chinese voices, and they seem to be fine. Yep, that's all I'm going to say about that. Being set in Hawaii and Japan, there's English and Japanese voice acting, as well as other languages combined together, for the background characters at least. With the main cast, and other important characters, depending on what audio track you've chosen, they will speak in that language, although there have been moments where certain characters will switch over to their main language actor. However, there is one character that doesn't do this if you're using the Japanese track, which makes it rather awkward to hear the Japanese actor speaking English with very heavy inflections. Honestly, I think they should have just had an option to go full Tekken, where the main cast retain their original actors, while the characters who come from America speak with their English cast. Someone's probably making that mod right now. The music is still great. Some might say that Infinite Wealth soundtrack is one of the weaker ones, but this still has quite a few bangers. Karaoke has many classic songs returning, and the new ones are also great fun. My personal favorite newcomers are Summertime Groove and Honolulu City Lights, though a close runner-up is If I Could Love the One I Love, Han Joongi's version especially, which I gotta say, Nakamura has some damn nice pipes. Also, they added back in the music player feature from Yakuza 0, which was a Japan exclusive, where you can now listen to music on the go, ranging from karaoke tracks to music from other Sega titles, glad to see someone remembered Rhythm Thief, to literal radio shows with no subtitles. Alright, so for my final thoughts. Like I said earlier, this is just Yakuza 7 but with some quality of life improvements. Movement during combat enhances the gameplay quite a bit, because now you can do a lot more for combos, back attacks and skill moves. That said, by the end of the game it still just devolves back to just throwing out AoE attacks, since you have the MP and damage for it. There are a lot of moments during this game that make me laugh out loud or tear up, from the sub-stories to the party chats while exploring the city. I enjoyed the new characters that joined the party, but I do feel like it's a bit of a wasted opportunity for Kiryu not to have his own friends join him, even though he still had a great rapport with everyone. As both a pro and a con, there is just way too much to do in this game. A friend of mine told me that he was having issues getting through with it because it would always introduce something new every chapter. So if you're wanting to play this game, you're gonna have to put aside quite a bit of time to dedicate to this one, which might be difficult with all the major releases coming out. Also, the game still has some issues with pacing, as you do get 2 more party members very late in the game, which kind of causes little incentive to use them. And while this point has been made by others already, I suppose I should put my 2 cents here as well. The DLC here is rather egregious. I can ignore the extra materials, stat boosting items, outfits and whatnot because, you know, they're just bonuses. But $32 for New Game Plus? And the post-game dungeon? I mean, seriously? They just went through with this with 7, and they had the audacity to try this again? I mean, I never really do New Game Plus with Yakuza games, but the post-game dungeon does kind of shit me. That said, if you have the know-how, there are alternative ways, if you catch my drift. Overall, bullshit DLC aside, I'd still recommend the game. Yes, I I am biased because I have played every other game of this series, so my investment is quite high. But still, I think regardless of whether or not I had played the others, I still would have enjoyed this game anyways. Alright, and that's the end of this video. Thank you everyone for watching, especially to those who've managed to stick around to the end and listen to my terrible voice. Originally I wanted to add on a sort of spoiler talk thing at the end here, but I think it might be smarter for me to do that in another video. Anyways, I never really know how to end these properly, but this probably fits me best. Thanks for watching. See you all next time.